Okay, hello everyone, and this is the second assignment for this particular module. Okay, all right, so the instruction. What I want you to do for this assignment is to evaluate the process you take when a professor assigns a research project. I want you to use Howard Becker's Terrorized by the Literature to formulate your argument, and I want you to respond to what he says about how students begin to organize their research projects. Do you think that he is being fair and accurate, or do you think he's being overly critical of his assessment of how students begin to start the research? I am thinking about the introductory paragraph in which he describes how an undergraduate student approaches their project. This will be considered your response to Howard Becker's argument, or setting a little differently. This will be regarded as how you engage with the material. When you address the points below, the essay is to be no more than 5 pages, but not less than 4 pages, double spaced to use 12-point font, right? Um, so then the first part, you're going to respond to Howard Becker, right? How he sort of characterizes, right? There's that key word again that I mentioned earlier about the circles, how he characterizes how students react when they're given a research project for their whatever course they're taking at that particular moment in time. All right. So I do want you to focus on that first page, but I also want you to read the rest of the chapter because it has good information for you. Okay. All right. And then once you're done with that, I want you to continue your assessment, but then also look at what you have done for me in terms of how you would be able to identify elements of a research project. And you can use the article that I mentioned about Amy Williams' article about Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and then address those points that I have here. All right, because it's sort of helping you reassess or reflect, which is another word that I've used before, reflect on how you're able to identify elements for a research paper, right? And then how you're able to write about it and communicate it effectively to your reader so they understand what you are trying to convey to them about your particular topic. Okay, so I want you to think about or consider, how do you identify the elements of a research project? All right. For example, like I mentioned earlier, when I read that article, I definitely thought about issues of misinformation or sorry, how social media platforms provide access to misinformation and disinformation. And that has had deadly consequences for people that were impacted by the hurricane. Right. But then I also indicated that there was an issue of racism because how the rumor or the disinformation about how FEMA gave money to undocumented immigrants at the expense of U.S. citizens impacted by the hurricane. Right. So it's race and ethnicity and immigration. Right. So then those were the elements that I was able to identify by just reading Amy Williams' article on the hurricanes. Okay. But then also, if you were to write an actual paper, just say hypothetically, what would be the purpose that the research would serve? Is it to sort of dispel the misinformation that was provided, which would be a legitimate project to undertake, or that about the issues of how the FEMA provided money to undocumented immigrants, or the process of how, based on a person's immigration status, how that has been racialized and to represent a particular nationality, ethnic group, or racial group. Okay. So then this is the level of detail and thinking that I'm trying to get you to. Okay. And then that's for point number two. And then point number three, do you use do you use your worldview to frame your object of study? Meaning, which I asked this question before, what is your worldview? All right. What do you believe in and what are you willing to die on? right? No matter how popular or unpopular the idea or issue may be. And I sort of explained this to you, or shared this to with everyone, that my mother was, born in the late 1930s, early 1940s, and then she was exposed to the atrocities of World War II. But more particularly, she explained to me when she was a little girl in Mexico, her school showed movie clippings of what happened in Auschwitz and Dachau, right, which are concentration camps that the Nazi regime used to basically kill people in mass or industrialize killing. And ever since then, my mother had been anti-Nazi, anti-fascist. And when I became of age, and especially, I think I shared the story that I drew a swastika on, I think, a spelling book, and my teacher was Jewish, which I had no idea. And she sort of made a comment in my book, or my notebook, circled it and said that it was a very hurtful symbol, and then called my mom. And then my mom had that conversation with me. And I think I was about like 9 or 10 years old when that happened. And ever since then, I've been an anti fascist, all right, an anti neo Nazi, and anti racist, all right, if that makes sense. Right. So then that worldview has informed me as an individual how I see and understand race in modern society. Right. And just to give you another example, because I'm the eldest son of an immigrant mother, and I am pro immigration. And I support the undocumented community because I also have family members who are undocumented who live in this country. Right. So then those things inform me in terms of how I see things and how I speak of things that deal around issues of immigration, undocumented immigration, and the response to undocumented immigration that most citizens in this country tend to have, or their negative attitudes toward this particular community, if that makes any sense. All right. So I'm trying to encouraging you to think about what are the values that you use to help you frame the type of paper you want to write. But you notice I didn't say the type of paper you want to write for your professor based on what they say. No, this is based on your perspective, on your values, and what you believe in. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. And again, if it doesn't, just send me an email, or stop by my office hours, either in person or virtual. Okay. All right. And then the last point for this particular module assignment is then how would you formulate questions for qualitative work or a hypothesis for quantitative work? So then again, going back to the Amy Williams example, and also the Howard Becker. So if you were going to do a particular project on the Amy Williams article, would you do a qualitatively based research, or would you do a more quantitative or survey based research, and why? And what type of questions would you develop, or what type of hypothesis would you construct, all right, to help frame what your topic or research, or your research topic is going to be? All right. Again, hopefully this makes sense. And then again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay. So I'm going to stop the video here, and then I'm going to continue on to the next assignment page.